Is time truly a straight line, or is it only an illusion we cling to because our lives feel so brief compared to the universe? You were born, you grow, you age, and you die. That looks like a line, beginning, middle, end. But pause for a moment. Look outside your window and notice how the world behaves. The sun does not rise once and vanish forever. It rises again and again. The moon does not fade into darkness and remain lost. It returns full and bright. The seasons turn endlessly. Spring revives the earth, summer ripens it, autumn lets it fade, and winter buries it in silence, only for the wheel to begin again. What if time itself is like this? What if existence is not a road stretching forward, but a wheel spinning in eternal rhythm? Welcome to the mystery of time. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. If you're ready, let's begin. Consider your breath. Inhale, exhale. In that tiny cycle lies a miniature birth and death. Your heart beats, contracts, and expands, never in a straight line but in repetition. And you, yes you, listening now, have you noticed how life itself brings you back to the same places? Old mistakes repeated, lessons resurfacing, patterns recurring. Do you think that is mere coincidence, or could it be a reflection of a greater pattern woven into the fabric of the cosmos? In the oldest traditions of India, the sages spoke of the yugas, the great ages of the world. Not centuries, not millennia, but vast spans of time in which humanity and the universe move through cycles of light and darkness. 4 ages, 4 movements in a symphony that repeats forever. Satya Yuga, the golden age of truth. Treta Yuga, where virtue begins to decline. Dvapara Yuga, the age of conflict and duality. And Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, the age we are told we inhabit today. Does that idea disturb you? Or does it explain the world you see around you? The wars, the corruption, the lies dressed as truth, the endless hunger for power. Do these not sound like the hallmarks of Kali Yuga? But here is the haunting question. If time is truly cyclical, then what you see today has all happened before. Humanity has risen, fallen, and risen again, countless times. Civilizations you cannot imagine have flourished and been lost, leaving only echoes in myths. What you call progress may be nothing more than another turn of the wheel, destined to fade. And yet, does that mean all effort is meaningless? Or does it mean that everything matters more, because your actions ripple through cycles beyond your comprehension? Across the world, in cultures that never met, the same story repeats. The Greek poet Hesiod wrote of 5 ages of mankind: the Golden Age, when humans lived in harmony and abundance; the Silver Age, when arrogance grew; the Bronze Age of warriors and destruction; the Heroic Age, where noble figures rose; and finally the Iron Age, a dark time of toil and suffering. Different names, different details, but do you hear the echo of the yugas? Light, decline, conflict, darkness. Always the same descent, always the promise of rebirth. Why should the Greeks, the Hindus, the Norse, the Mayans all speak the same language of cycles? Were they merely imagining, or were they sensing a truth deeper than history, deeper than culture, a truth embedded in existence itself? Ask yourself, when you see the world burning, when you feel society unravel, do you think it is the end? Or do you feel, deep inside, that it is only a turning point, that what collapses will someday be rebuilt? The Norse spoke of Ragnarök, the twilight of the gods. Fire consumes the world, oceans rise, the sun turns black. It is the end, but not forever. Out of the ashes, a green earth rises again. Survivors find themselves in a reborn world. The cycle continues. Even destruction is not the final word. Does that sound like despair to you, or hope? Now turn your gaze inward. Think of your own life. Do you not live through cycles yourself? Childhood innocence, youthful arrogance, adulthood's battles, old age's decline. And yet, even after death, cultures speak of return, rebirth, resurrection, reincarnation. Could it be that your personal journey is a reflection of the cosmic journey? That you too are caught in the wheel of time? The sages described the yugas as moral and spiritual landscapes, not merely historical ones. In Satya Yuga, truth is pure, compassion flows naturally, humanity lives in harmony with nature. In Treta Yuga, selfishness grows, rituals replace true spirituality. In Dvapara Yuga, half the truth remains, but half is lost. Wars begin, greed spreads. In Kali Yuga, only a quarter of virtue survives. Hypocrisy replaces wisdom. People cling to illusions. Sound familiar? You live in a world where endless information floods your mind, yet wisdom feels rarer than ever. Where wealth grows for some, while poverty grips millions. Where technology can reach the stars but cannot cure the hunger in a child's stomach. Is this not the signature of Kali Yuga? And if it is, what role do you play in it? Imagine standing at a crossroad in time. One path is collapse, decay, ruin. The other is renewal, transformation, awakening. Which path will you help carve with your actions, your choices? For the Yuga cycle is not simply fate imposed from outside. It is also a mirror of humanity's collective spirit. The cycle turns because people choose, over and over, arrogance or humility, greed or generosity, violence or peace. Which do you choose? Look again at history. The fall of Rome, the decline of ancient Egypt, the collapse of the Maya. Each thought they were eternal, each vanished. But humanity itself did not end. New cultures rose, new ages began. Could it be that civilizations are but leaves on the tree of time, falling, replaced, yet the tree itself continues to grow? Now imagine something greater, not just civilizations, but entire worlds rising and falling, like bubbles surfacing on the ocean of eternity. This is what the ancients suggested, an infinite cycle of creation and dissolution, universes born, destroyed, and reborn, in rhythms so vast you can barely comprehend them. And yet, you are part of it. You are living within that wheel right now. How does that make you feel? Small, like dust caught in a storm, or immense, knowing that your very breath connects you to the pulse of eternity? The truth is unsettling. If everything repeats, then your struggles, your triumphs, your mistakes, they are not unique. But if everything repeats, then nothing is ever truly lost either. Every flame of kindness, every act of courage returns again and again, echoing through cycles of time. So the question is not whether time is a line or a circle. The question is, what kind of mark will you leave on the circle before it turns again? Picture it. The wheel of time turning slowly, vast and endless. On its rim, humanity clings, rising, falling. You are there too, carried with it. Can you see yourself? Do you rise with wisdom or sink into the shadows? The sages warned, Kali Yuga is the hardest age, but it is also the most powerful. Why? Because in an age of light, virtue is easy. In an age of darkness, even the smallest light shines like a star. That means your choices matter more now than ever before. And so as the wheel turns, you must ask, will you be a shadow or will you be a flame? The cycle does not end here. This is only the beginning of our journey. Together we will walk through the yugas, through the myths of Greece, the prophecies of Persia, the fires of Ragnarök, and beyond. You will see how all stories converge, how all myths whisper the same truth. Time is not linear, time is a dance. And as you listen, remember this. You are not outside the story. You are inside it, right now. The wheel is turning. The question is not if it will turn again, it always will. The question is, when the wheel turns, where will you be standing? Are you ready to find out? Then come. The journey continues. They say the wheel of time has 4 great spokes, 4 colossal ages that guide the destiny of the world. Can you imagine an age so radiant, so pure, that human beings lived almost as gods themselves? Close your eyes for a moment and try. Picture a world without corruption, without lies, without hunger or hatred. Picture a time when the very air felt alive with truth, when nature and humanity breathed in harmony. That was Satya Yuga, the golden age, the first age of the cycle. But what does perfection look like in Satya Yuga, it is said? People lived for thousands of years. Their bodies were strong, their minds clear, their spirits luminous. They did not need kings or laws, for truth itself was their guide. Dharma, the cosmic law, the essence of righteousness, stood unshaken, like a mountain with 4 strong legs. Can you imagine living in a world where every heart was aligned with truth? Where no deception could exist because no one could even conceive of it? Yet perfection never lasts forever. Think of a bright flame. Inevitably, it casts shadows. As the wheel turned, a subtle shift began. Humanity, intoxicated by life, slowly drifted from pure truth. And so, the Golden Age gave way to the Silver. Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga, Dharma lost one of its legs. Truth still existed, but not as whole as before. People grew proud. Desire entered the world. Sacrifices and rituals arose, for the pure inner knowing of the Golden Age was dimming. Where once the human heart was naturally aligned with the divine, now humans needed guidance, needed priests, needed sacred rites to remind them of what was slipping away. And yet Treta Yuga was also an age of heroes. The great epics of India, Ramayana and Mahabharata, speak of this time. It was the age when Lord Rama walked the earth, when justice was still possible but required courage, when virtue was no longer effortless but had to be defended. Can you see the shift? In Satya Yuga, truth was the air itself. In Treta Yuga, truth had to be sought, protected, even fought for. But decline does not stop. The wheel continued, and Treta Yuga yielded to Dvapara Yuga, the Bronze Age of duality. Here, light and shadow stood in near balance, half truth, half falsehood, half virtue, half vice. It was the age of Krishna, the age of great wars, the age of conflict and confusion. Imagine a world where wisdom and ignorance walked side by side, where kings still ruled with justice, but corruption gnawed at their courts, where teachers spread knowledge, but false teachers spread lies just as loudly, where technology and power advanced, yet morality lagged behind. Does that sound familiar? Do you recognize something of your own world here? In Dvapara Yuga, Dharma stood on only 2 legs. Humanity's inner strength faltered, illness grew, lifespans shortened, war became constant. The great Mahabharata, with its vast battlefield at Kurukshetra, was not just a story. It was a reflection of the cosmic truth of the age, a world split in half, torn between righteousness and chaos. And then, the darkest spoke of the wheel, Kali Yuga. The age, we are told, is our own, the Iron Age, the age of decline. Here, Dharma totters on a single leg, trembling, barely able to stand. Virtue becomes rare, lies dominate, greed, envy, cruelty. These are not exceptions, but the very fabric of daily life. Does that sound too bleak? Look around. Are we not living in an age where information flows without end, yet wisdom feels lost? Where wealth gathers in the hands of the few while countless millions starve? Where faith is proclaimed loudly but rarely lived? Where the earth itself groans under the weight of exploitation? If these are not the marks of Kali Yuga, then what are they? But here is the paradox. In the darkest age lies the greatest opportunity. Why? Because in an age of light, to be virtuous costs nothing. In an age of darkness, to be virtuous is to be a rebel, a warrior of the spirit. Your smallest act of compassion becomes a beacon. Your search for truth becomes an act of revolution. So ask yourself, if you are indeed living in Kali Yuga, what role do you play? Are you swept along by its currents of greed and fear, or do you dare to resist? When everything decays, will you be among the few who preserve the spark? The cycle of yugas spans unimaginable time. Ancient texts speak of hundreds of thousands of years, vast epochs beyond comprehension. But perhaps the numbers are not the point. Perhaps the teaching is this: every age has its flavor, its energy, its challenge, and each one lives inside you as well. Think about it. Have you not experienced your own golden moments, times of clarity, innocence, joy, where truth felt effortless? Then came decline, when pride crept in, when shadows grew. You fought your own battles of duality, your own Kurukshetra within. And sometimes you have sunk into your personal Kali Yuga, times of despair, when lies surrounded you, when hope seemed lost. Yet always, after the darkest nights, a dawn returned. Do you see it now? The Yuga cycle is not only cosmic, it is personal. And just as it is personal, it is collective. Humanity moves together, rising and falling as one. That is why myths across the world echo the same pattern. The Greeks spoke of golden and iron ages. The Persians of Zoroaster told of a 12,000-year cycle, ending with a final battle between truth and falsehood. The Norse spoke of Ragnarök. The Maya tracked cycles that stretched across thousands of years. Could all of them be wrong? Or is there something deep in the human soul that remembers? But here is the haunting truth. If the cycle is real, then Kali Yuga will not last forever. Just as winter yields to spring, darkness yields to light. The wheel will turn, and from the ashes of collapse, Satya Yuga will be born again. Can you imagine it? After centuries of lies, a return to truth. After violence and greed, a return to harmony. After exhaustion, a return to renewal. So the question is not whether the cycle ends. It never ends. The question is, will you endure it? Will you carry the flame through the darkness so that when the dawn comes, the world still remembers what light looks like? The sages said that even in Kali Yuga, a path remains. It is not the path of rituals, nor the path of endless debate. It is the path of devotion, the path of love, the path of inner realization. In a world where truth is hidden, the only way to find it is to search within yourself. Now think again. Where are you in this wheel? Are you trapped in its motion, helpless? Or can you step outside and see the pattern clearly? If you can see it, you can live differently. You can refuse to be a shadow. You can become the flame. The yugas are not just myth. They are mirrors. Mirrors of history, mirrors of the world, mirrors of your own soul. And as we move forward, you will see how this mirror appears not just in India, but across the world. The Greeks, the Persians, the Norse, the Mayans, all gazed into the same truth and told the same story, each in their own tongue. But before we travel to them, remember this: the wheel is turning even now. You can feel it in the chaos of the world. You can sense it in your own heart. And as it turns, you must decide, will you sink deeper into the shadows of Kali Yuga, or will you prepare yourself for the dawn of Satya Yuga? Because whether you believe or not, whether you are ready or not, the dawn will come, and when it does, where will you be standing? Imagine standing in ancient Greece nearly 3,000 years ago, as a poet speaks to a gathering under the open sky. His voice is strong, his words laced with both sorrow and awe. He is Hesiod, one of the earliest poets we know by name, and he is telling a story that sounds eerily familiar, the story of humanity's decline through a series of ages. As you listen, do you hear the echo of the yugas? Hesiod spoke of the Golden Age first. Can you picture it? The gods still walked among mortals then. The earth gave freely, without toil or labor. Grain and fruit grew in abundance. People lived long lives, unburdened by sickness or grief. There was no war, no envy, no need for rulers or laws. They lived like children of the divine, innocent and carefree, until death came gently, like sleep. Does this not sound like Satya Yuga, the golden truth age of India, when virtue stood firm and humanity lived in harmony? But Hesiod says it did not last. The golden age faded, and the silver age began. Humanity grew arrogant, straying from the gods. Children no longer honored their parents. People quarreled and forgot reverence. Though they lived long lives, they lived them foolishly, wasting their days in pride. And when death came, it was no longer gentle. Zeus, angered by their arrogance, swept them away. Can you see the reflection of Treta Yuga here, the decline from effortless virtue into pride, from pure connection with the divine into ritual and arrogance? Then came the Bronze Age, and with it the sound of clashing steel. This was an age of warriors, fierce and unyielding. Their hearts were harder than iron, their spirits restless. They lived by the sword and perished by it. Violence was their breath. Though strong and mighty, they were consumed by their own rage, and in the end they destroyed themselves. Does this not remind you of Dvapara Yuga, when half-truth and half-vice clashed? When war became the world's constant companion? When Kurukshetra mirrored not just India's destiny, but humanity's? After the Bronze Age, Hesiod tells us of another, the Age of Heroes, a strange insertion, some say, because it is not quite like the others. It was a time when noble warriors, though still bound by war, carried greatness in their souls. Think of Hercules, Perseus, Achilles. Mortal men, touched by the divine, striving toward glory even in the midst of decline. Why would Hesiod place this age here? Was it his way of saying that even in darkness light can flicker, that even in times of chaos noble figures can rise to remind humanity of what it once was? If so, is this not the same paradox the Yuga cycle teaches, that even in Kali Yuga the smallest flame can shine brightest? And then finally the Iron Age, Hesiod's own age. He speaks of it with sorrow, almost despair. Listen to his words. This is a time of endless labor, of greed and injustice, of children dishonoring parents, of friendship betrayed, of violence rampant. He says that in this age there will be no love between guest and host, between friend and friend, between brother and brother. Do these lines not pierce you because you recognize them in your own world? Look around. Are we not in an age where trust is fragile, where greed spreads like fire, where divisions multiply? Hesiod's Iron Age, like India's Kali Yuga, is the world we know. You see the pattern? Golden Age, silver, bronze, iron. Satya Yuga, Treta, Dvapara, Kali. Two traditions, oceans apart, speaking the same truth in different tongues. How could this be? Were they copying one another? Or did they both inherit some memory from the deep human past, a memory etched into myth because it could not be preserved in any other way? Ask yourself, why do human beings so often tell stories of decline? Why not endless progress? Why not imagine a future always better than the past? Could it be because they saw the truth around them, that societies rise, grow proud, decay, and fall, only to give birth again to something new? Could it be because they sensed the wheel turning beneath their feet? And consider this, if both Greece and India told of these cycles, how many other cultures did the same? The Norse, with their tales of Ragnarök, the Persians, with their 12,000-year struggle between light and darkness, the Mayans, with their repeating calendars of ages. Did all these traditions simply invent the same pattern? Or does the pattern exist, woven into time itself, and humanity merely glimpses it, like sailors glimpsing the same star from different oceans? But let us stay with Greece for a moment longer. Imagine the people listening to Hesiod. For them, the Golden Age was not only in the past, it was something lost, something mourned. Do you feel that in your own heart? A longing for a time you cannot remember but somehow sense? Many call it nostalgia, but what if it is something deeper? Ancestral memory, an echo of Satya Yuga, an imprint of humanity's forgotten innocence. Hesiod believed that the Iron Age would worsen until Zeus, in his wrath, would destroy it. Yet he also hinted at renewal, that when the cycle of decline reached its lowest point, the gods might begin it all again. Does that not mirror the Yuga teaching that after Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga must return, that death itself is only the seed of rebirth? Pause for a moment. Imagine you are living in Hesiod's Iron Age, or in Kali Yuga. The world is broken, virtue rare, greed and violence everywhere. What would you do? Would you despair, surrender, live only for yourself? Or would you dare to live as if you were still in a golden age, carrying its memory forward like a torch through the darkness? Because here is the secret, myths are not only about the past or the future, they are instructions for the present. Hesiod told his people that even in the Iron Age, justice mattered, that even in decline, the gods saw and remembered. The sages of India said that even in Kali Yuga, devotion could lead to liberation. In other words, The age does not excuse you, it challenges you. What will you choose when the world itself seems to choose corruption? Look carefully at the world you live in now. Do you see the parallels with Hesiod's lament? Endless labor, where people toil yet remain unsatisfied. Injustice, where the powerful exploit the weak. Families divided, friendships broken, wars that never seem to end. Does it not sound like his prophecy echoing through time? And yet, within this, there is something else. Just as the age of heroes interrupted the decline, perhaps our world too has its heroes. Not warriors with swords, but people who choose compassion over cruelty, truth over lies, courage over fear. Could it be that even now, even here, the heroic age lives again in those who resist the darkness? Could it be that you are meant to be one of them? So the Greek ages and the yugas are not separate stories. They are reflections in different mirrors. One speaks of Zeus, the other of Vishnu. One speaks of golden and iron, the other of Satya and Kali. But the heartbeat beneath them is the same. Humanity rises, humanity falls, humanity rises again. And you, living here and now, are part of that rhythm whether you believe it or not. Ask yourself this: if the ancients all agreed that time is cyclical, why have we forgotten? Why do we insist on drawing time as a straight line, marching from past to present to future, as if progress were inevitable? Has our belief in linear time blinded us to the deeper reality? And if so, what dangers await us when we imagine that decline is impossible? Because the ancients warn us, decline always comes. Pride leads to fall. Golden ages fade. But they also remind us, the fall is never the end. Death itself is not final. From ruin, new life begins. Is that not the story of nature itself? Winter always yields to spring. Night always yields to dawn. So perhaps the most important question is not whether we are in an Iron Age or a Kali Yuga. Perhaps the question is, when the wheel turns again, will we have preserved enough light to rebuild? Will we have remembered enough truth to begin anew? That is why the myths still matter. That is why Hesiod's voice, across nearly 3 millennia, still reaches us. Because he was not just speaking of his world, he was speaking of ours. He was speaking of yours. And now, as we leave Greece behind, the echoes lead us eastward, to the lands of Mesopotamia and Persia. There too we will find the same rhythm, ages of light, ages of darkness, and the promise that time is not an arrow, but a wheel forever turning. But before we journey there, pause and hold the thought. You live in the age that Hesiod feared, the age that the sages warned of. But that does not mean you are powerless. It means you are living in the most critical time of all. For in the darkest age, every choice matters more than ever. And so I ask you again, in this turning wheel, in this age of iron and shadow, what role will you choose to play? Long before the Greeks dreamed of their golden and iron ages, long before Hesiod spoke of decline, there were other voices, even older, whispering of cycles. They came from the fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates, from the temples of Sumer, from the ziggurats of Babylon, from the sacred fire altars of Persia. Do you feel the pull of that ancient soil, the cradle of civilization, the place where humanity first wrote down stories in clay tablets? What truths did they carve there? What patterns of time did they see? The Sumerians were among the first to record the kings of their land. But look closely at their king lists. What do you notice? In the earliest ages, kings ruled for thousands of years, tens of thousands even. Can you imagine? 10, 12, even 30,000 years of reign, written as if it were fact. Were these numbers literal? Or were they symbolic, telling us of a time when humans were closer to the gods, when lifespans were vast? Does it not sound like Satya Yuga, when human beings lived for ages, pure and luminous? Then the reigns shortened, from thousands to hundreds, from hundreds to mere decades. Was this not decline? Was this not their way of recording the fall from divine harmony into mortal fragility? The wheel turned, and with it human life itself contracted. Is this not another echo of the Yuga cycles? And then there is the great flood, Nearly every culture remembers it, but in Mesopotamia it was written on clay long before the Bible, the Epic of Gilgamesh. In it, Utnapishtim tells of the gods deciding to destroy humanity, of the floodwaters rising, of the ark that preserved life. But why? Because the world had grown corrupt. Does this not mirror the same pattern of decline? Purity, arrogance, corruption, destruction, renewal. Again, the cycle turns. Ask yourself, why would people across the world, from Mesopotamia to India, tell of vast cycles, of long-lost ages of greatness, of catastrophic floods wiping the slate clean? Is it coincidence or memory? Did they glimpse fragments of real events? Civilizations drowned, knowledge lost, humanity forced to begin again? Or is it something deeper still, a recognition that time itself is cyclical, that destruction and renewal are inseparable? Move now from Sumer to Persia, from the clay tablets to the holy fire. Here lived Zoroaster, the prophet of one of the world's oldest religions still remembered, Zoroastrianism. His vision was of a cosmic struggle between truth and falsehood, light and darkness, Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu. But look closely, he also spoke of time in cycles. According to Zoroastrian cosmology, the universe lasts 12,000 years. Not endless, but vast enough to span ages. These 12,000 years are divided into 4 3,000-year periods. In the first, creation is pure. In the second, the forces of darkness invade. In the third, the battle intensifies. And in the fourth, the final confrontation arrives. Do you see it? 4 great ages, moving from purity to corruption to struggle to final darkness. Is this not the Yugas once again, told in another language under another sky? And in the end, Zoroastrianism promises something extraordinary, the final renewal. A savior will come, evil will be destroyed, the dead will be resurrected, and the world will be remade perfect again. Satya Yuga reborn, the golden age restored, the cycle complete. But here is the haunting question. If Zoroastrianism tells of a final renewal, does it end the cycle or simply begin it anew? Can any age last forever? Or will even the new creation, over endless spans, once again decline? The wheel insists on turning. Do you believe it can ever stop? Think for a moment about the parallels. In India, Dharma declines step by step, from 4 legs to 3 to 2 to 1. In Greece, humanity falls from golden to iron. In Persia, the ages march from purity to corruption to struggle to final collapse. In each, the story is the same: rise, decline, destruction, rebirth. Can you really believe that all of these are coincidences? Now picture the ancient Persians tending their sacred fires, flames that burn night and day, never extinguished. They believed fire was the purest symbol of truth, the visible sign of the divine. Do you see the connection? Even in the darkest age, the fire still burns. Even when falsehood spreads, truth remains somewhere, waiting. Could that be the message for us? That no matter how far the world falls, the flame can be kept alive? And maybe you are one of the keepers of that flame. The Persians saw history not only as decline, but as battle. Do you see the difference? In India, the Yugas often feel inevitable. The wheel turns and you can only endure. In Persia, there is a fight. Humanity is not powerless. Each choice, each action, tips the balance between light and darkness. And though the ages decline, the battle matters. Does that not speak to you more directly? If you see injustice, if you see corruption, does it mean you can do nothing? Or does it mean you are called to fight? And then there is the flood of Babylon. In the Atrahasis epic, the gods grow weary of humanity's noise, of its corruption, and they send the flood to wipe it away. Again the cycle: creation, corruption, destruction, renewal. But ask yourself, why always destruction by water? Could it be that water symbolizes the eternal reset, the return to chaos from which order must be rebuilt? Or could it be a memory of real cataclysms, floods that once destroyed civilizations and forced humanity to start again? The Mesopotamians also spoke of ages of kings, of dynasties rising and falling, each with its own character, each shorter than the last. Again decline, again loss. Again the sense that humanity was moving away from something it once had. Do you ever feel that too? That somehow, deep down, we have lost something? That the world we inhabit is a shadow of a greater truth we can no longer quite touch? Across Mesopotamia and Persia, one theme resounds: the struggle between order and chaos, light and darkness, truth and falsehood. The Yuga cycle is not just about time, but about morality. It says that ages decline because people themselves decline. Virtue fades, greed grows, harmony breaks, violence spreads. And when the world becomes too dark, destruction comes to cleanse it. Does this sound like myth, or does it sound like history itself? Have we not seen empires fall when corruption consumed them, when greed outstripped wisdom? Rome, Egypt, Babylon, all thought themselves eternal, and all fell. So what lesson do these myths whisper to you? That decline is inevitable, or that decline is a warning, a chance to choose differently before collapse comes? In Zoroastrianism, the end of the cycle is not passive. It requires heroes, saviors, people who choose truth over lies, even when the world mocks them. It requires faith that darkness is not eternal. Could it be that you, living now, are meant to be such a person? That the age you live in is not simply an accident, but an opportunity to take part in the cosmic battle? Consider the fire altars again. Imagine the flames crackling in the desert night, tended by priests who never let them die. Around them, kingdoms rose and fell, armies clashed, empires collapsed, but the fire remained. Is that not a symbol for you? That even as cycles turn, as worlds fall, the fire of truth must be kept alive, carried forward to the next dawn? So the stories of Mesopotamia and Persia join the chorus. India, Greece, Mesopotamia, Persia all tell the same song. Light, decline, darkness, renewal. Do you hear it yet? Do you feel the rhythm beneath history, beneath your own life? Because if you do, then you know the cycle is not only behind us, it is still turning, right now. And as it turns, you must ask yourself, will you be swept away in the flood, or will you be one who carries the fire through the night? In the frozen lands of the north where winters bite hard and the sun lingers only a few pale hours above the horizon, another people told their story of time. They were the Norse, seafarers and poets, hunters and warriors. Their world was harsh, their lives uncertain, but their myths were immense. They spoke not only of gods and giants, but of the end of all things. Ragnarök. To them, time was not a line but a cycle, and even the gods themselves could not escape it. Can you imagine their nights? The long winters, the flickering firelight, the skald chanting the old sagas. His voice rises and falls, describing the creation of the world from the body of the giant Ymir, and already within that creation is the promise of destruction. Because in the Norse imagination, every beginning contains its ending. Do you feel the resonance? The same truth told in India, in Persia, in Greece. The wheel always turns. The Norse told of ages of peace and plenty, when gods and humans lived in relative harmony. In the earliest times, the world through Yggdrasil stood strong, its branches shading gods, men, and all creatures. Order reigned for a while, but then cracks began to show. Loki, the trickster, sowed mischief. Giants stirred in Jotunheim. Wars broke out even among the gods. Slowly, steadily, the golden times frayed. Does this not sound like Treta and Dvapara Yuga? When decline begins, when conflict creeps in. And then came the prophecy of Ragnarök, the doom of the gods. A final winter, long and unyielding, the sun and moon devoured by wolves, the stars falling from the sky, the earth quaking, mountains splitting, oceans rising. Can you see it? Fire and frost together, chaos breaking every bond. The gods gather for their last battle. Odin, Thor, Freyr, each destined to fall. Even the mightiest cannot escape the turning of the wheel. But pause for a moment. Why would a people tell such a grim story? Why would they dwell on destruction, on the inevitable death of their beloved gods? Could it be because they saw in the cycles of nature that nothing lasts? The crops wither, the seasons die, even the longest night gives way to dawn, but only after everything freezes first? Did the Norse, gazing at their unforgiving world, understand that endings are as natural as beginnings. And yet Ragnarök is not only an ending. Listen closely to the skald's chant. After fire consumes the earth, after gods and giants alike perish, something happens. The seas recede, the ashes cool. Out of the devastation, a new world emerges. Green, fertile, shining. Two humans, Lif and Lithrasir, survive, hidden in the shelter of Yggdrasil. They step into the new dawn, the new earth. And the cycle begins again. Death gives way to life. Despair gives way to hope. Does this not echo the Yuga cycle once more? After Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga returns. After the Iron Age, a golden dawn. After Ragnarök, a reborn world. Always the same rhythm, always the same truth. Destruction is not final. It is only the prelude to renewal. Now ask yourself, what does Ragnarök mean to you? Is it prophecy of literal apocalypse, fire and ice consuming the planet? Or is it a mythic mirror of the truth you already know, that collapse is part of existence, that even the greatest powers fall, that life renews only through death? Look at your own world. Do you not see signs that resemble Ragnarök? Climate shifting, storms rising, oceans swelling, wars and chaos spreading, old structures collapsing. Sometimes it feels as though wolves truly are devouring the sun, as though the stars themselves are trembling. Could it be that every generation feels the shadow of Ragnarök, because every cycle carries within it an ending? Or could it be that humanity is closer now than ever before to such a turning? But remember, the Norse did not tell this story only to terrify. They told it to remind themselves of courage. Even knowing their fate, the gods fought. Odin knew he would fall to Fenrir, yet he faced the beast. Thor knew he would slay the serpent Jormungandr, but that its venom would kill him in turn. Still, he raised his hammer. Do you feel the lesson? Even when the end is certain, valor matters. Even when decline is inevitable, how you meet it defines you. Is this not the same challenge you face in Kali Yuga? The world may be drowning in falsehood, but you still choose how to act. You still choose whether to surrender or to fight for truth, even if the battle seems hopeless. And perhaps, like the Norse gods, your courage is what keeps the fire alive for the next dawn. Think of Yggdrasil, the great world tree. In Norse myth, even it trembles at Ragnarök. Serpents gnaw its roots, stags feed on its branches, frost and fire threaten it, and yet, after the end, the tree still stands, sheltering the survivors. Is this not the same symbol as the eternal fire of Persia, or the Dharma of India? Fragile, shaken, yet never extinguished. Could it be that the universe always preserves a seed, a remnant, a memory, so that renewal can come? Now imagine yourself sitting by that northern fire, hearing the saga. The skald describes the final battle, the clash of gods and monsters. Do you despair, or do you feel strangely comforted, knowing that even in death there is life, even in destruction renewal, that what looks like the end is only another turn of the wheel? The Norse saw time not as progress toward a perfect paradise, but as a cycle of creation and destruction. They lived in harsh lands where winters killed, where summers were brief, where death was constant. Yet in their myths, hope always lingered. After fire, new earth. After gods fell, new gods rose. After humanity died, two humans survived. Do you see the balance, the honesty of their vision? That even the end is not absolute. Compare this to the Yuga cycle. In Satya Yuga, virtue is strong. In Treta, it weakens. In Dvapara, conflict reigns. In Kali, corruption rules. Then after collapse, Satya Yuga returns. The Norse saw the same: golden beginnings, slow decline, final collapse, rebirth. Across the world, the same pattern. Can you still believe it is coincidence, or must you admit that humanity has always felt the turning of the wheel beneath its feet? And if this is true, then what of our own time? Are we approaching a Ragnarök of our own? Wars spread, nature trembles, technology races beyond wisdom. Does it not feel like the twilight of something? But if it is, then remember the lesson. Ragnarök is not only death, it is also dawn. Could it be that even now, even here, seeds of renewal are waiting, hidden, ready to rise after the storm? So ask yourself, if Ragnarök came tomorrow, where would you stand? Would you cower, or would you face the wolf like Odin, the serpent like Thor? Would you despair, or would you trust that beyond the fire lies a new earth? Because that is the essence of these myths. They are not only about gods and giants, they are about you, about how you meet endings, about whether you carry the flame into the next age. The Norse sagas end with silence after battle, but then with birds singing, earth greening, life beginning again, always the same song, always the same truth. Time is not a line that ends. It is a circle that returns. And now, as we leave the frozen north, we turn our gaze once more across the oceans of myth, to the Mayas, to Egypt, to China, each with their own vision of cycles, each another echo of the eternal wheel. But hold this thought as we move forward. Even the death of gods is not the death of time. The wheel turns, the world renews, and the question remains, when your Ragnarök arrives, whether in your life, your world, or your age, will you be a flame for the dawn that follows? Far across the ocean, far from the frozen north, another people raised their eyes to the sky and read the secrets of time in the stars. The Maya of Mesoamerica carved calendars in stone, vast wheels of days and cycles, turning endlessly. To them, time was not a straight line, it was a sacred rhythm, a heartbeat of the cosmos. Their priests gazed at the heavens, counting days, measuring cycles of the sun, the moon, Venus, and what did they see? That worlds are born, worlds die, and worlds are born again. And you imagine standing at a Maya temple as the sun rises, its rays piercing the stairway aligned with perfect precision. To the priests, this was no coincidence. It was proof that the universe itself moves in patterns, that time repeats, that destiny is written not in progress but in cycles. They spoke of previous worlds destroyed and remade, floods, fires, earthquakes, each ending an age, each clearing the way for a new creation. Does this not echo the floods of Mesopotamia, the destruction of Ragnarök, the collapse of Kali Yuga? Always the same story, always the same rhythm: life, decline, destruction, rebirth. The Maya believed we live in the fifth sun, the fifth world. 4 had come before, each destroyed in turn, the first by jaguars, the second by wind, the third by fire, the fourth by flood. And this world too, they said, will one day end. Does that thought terrify you, or does it comfort you, knowing that endings are never truly endings, only transformations? Remember how the world trembled in 2012 when people misread the Maya calendar? They thought it meant apocalypse. But the Maya never said the world would end once and for all. They said a cycle would end, and another would begin. The long count calendar was like the Yuga cycle, vast spans of time, repeating. So what if 2012 was not the end, but a turning point? What if humanity has already stepped into a new cycle, unnoticed, and we are now shaping what kind of world it will become? Now let us move from the jungles of Mesoamerica to the sands of Egypt. The Nile flows endlessly, flooding and receding, bringing life and death, and the Egyptians built their lives upon its rhythm. To them, time was not only linear, moving from creation to death, it was also cyclical, bound to the daily rising and setting of the sun, to the yearly flood of the river, to the eternal rebirth of Osiris. In their myth, Ra, the sun god, is born each morning, sails across the sky, and dies each evening, swallowed by the underworld. But in the night, he battles serpents of chaos, and at dawn, he is reborn. Day after day, the cycle repeats. Do you see the lesson? Even the greatest god dies and rises again. Even the sun itself is caught in the wheel. The Egyptians told of Zep Tepi, the first time, a golden age when gods ruled on earth and harmony prevailed. Do you hear the echo of Satya Yuga, of the golden age of Greece? But they also told of decline, of humanity straying from Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, justice, and when Ma'at was forgotten, chaos spread, kings fell, dynasties ended. Yet Ma'at never vanished. It could always be restored, always reborn. Does this not mirror the eternal fire of Persia, the trembling Yggdrasil of the Norse? Truth may weaken, but it never dies. Consider Osiris, slain and torn apart by his brother Set, only to be resurrected through Isis's devotion. He becomes lord of the underworld, not as a symbol of death, but of life renewed. Every year, when the Nile floods, the Egyptians said it was Osiris's blood giving life again, death feeding life, destruction birthing renewal. The same story again and again. Now let us cross eastward to China, where the ancient philosophers spoke not of a single line of time, nor of distant apocalypses, but of balance. Yin and yang, the eternal dance of opposites. Can you feel the difference? To them, history was not just a fall from light to darkness, but a constant turning of forces, dark within light, light within dark, one always containing the seed of the other. They told of dynastic cycles. A dynasty rises, virtuous, guided by the mandate of heaven. Crops flourish, people prosper. But over generations, greed grows, corruption spreads, rulers forget justice, famine, rebellion, chaos follow, the dynasty collapses. Another rises, again and again, the wheel turns. Does this not sound like the fall of Rome, of Babylon, of every empire? Does it not sound like your own world now? Nations rising and decaying. But the Chinese vision was not only political, it was cosmic. The Taoist sages spoke of the Tao, the way, the eternal rhythm of the universe. To fight it was futile. To flow with it was wisdom. Time, to them, was not a march forward, nor merely a decline. It was the ceaseless balance of yin and yang, expansion and contraction, day and night, creation and destruction. Could it be that this, too, is another way of describing the Yuga wheel? So now we have heard from the Maya, from the Egyptians, from the Chinese. Each in their own way told the same truth. Time is not a straight path, but a circle. Worlds rise and fall, suns are born and die, empires flourish and crumble, darkness spreads and is overcome. And through it all, something eternal endures. The fire, the tree, the Ma'at, the Tao. Always a core of truth, always a seed of renewal. Ask yourself, why do all these cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, tell the same story? Did they share some hidden knowledge passed along forgotten routes of trade? Or did they all look at nature, the sun, the moon, the seasons, the floods, and see the same lesson written there? Perhaps both. Perhaps truth is too great to be hidden, and so it echoes everywhere. And now ask yourself more personally, what does it mean for you? If time is a circle, then your life too is part of that rhythm. You rise, you fall, you are broken, you are renewed. Can you feel it? Times of joy, then times of loss. Moments of despair, then unexpected rebirth. You too are living a cycle, smaller but no less real. Does that comfort you, knowing nothing is truly lost? Or does it challenge you, reminding you that decline is as certain as growth? But here is the most important question. What will you carry forward? When the world turns again, when civilizations collapse, when new dawns come, what truth will survive because you preserved it? The Mayan priests, the Egyptian scribes, the Chinese philosophers, they all became guardians of memory. Will you? Because the wheel of time is vast, but its turning depends on countless small acts, on each human being choosing light or darkness, harmony or chaos. Do you think your choices are too small to matter? They are not. They are the seeds of the next cycle. So as you listen to these echoes from jungles, deserts, and mountains, remember this: you are not outside the cycle, you are inside it, right now. And as it turns, it asks of you the same question it asked of the Maya, of the Egyptians, of the Chinese. When the old world fades, what will you give to the new? For thousands of years, myths spoke in poetry, in fire and flood, in gods and giants. But in the last few centuries, humanity has clothed itself in reason, science, and philosophy. The language changed, yet the old rhythm still whispers beneath it. Even in modern times, even in the age of telescopes and equations, the ancient cycle of decline and renewal has not disappeared. It has only taken new shapes, new names. Have you noticed, when you hear of cosmic theories, of the birth and death of stars, of the universe expanding and contracting, do you feel an echo of the yugas? In the 19th century, a new current rose in the West. Theosophy. Its teachers looked eastward, to India, to the wisdom of the Vedas, and they told Europeans that history was not a straight ladder but a cycle. Helena Blavatsky, the voice of Theosophy, spoke of root races, vast epochs of humanity rising and falling just as the yugas rise and fall. She said we were not merely progressing from caves to cities, but circling through immense spirals of evolution and decline. Did she preserve fragments of ancient truth, or invent new myth for an age hungry for mystery? Think of the New Age movements of the 20th century, speaking of Aquarian ages, of cosmic shifts, of cycles of consciousness. Listen carefully. Beneath the language of astrology and crystals, do you not hear the same heartbeat? That humanity passes through dark ages of ignorance and golden ages of awakening, that time is not a march forward, but a wheel turning? And when they speak of 2012, of transformation, of awakening, are they not echoing the Maya, the Hindus, the Norse, all in their own way? But let us turn to science, the modern temple of truth. Does science speak of cycles? At first glance, no. The modern mind loves linearity. Big bang at the beginning, heat death at the end. A straight arrow, nothing more. But look closer, and you will find whispers of something else. Some scientists speak of the Big Crunch, the universe collapsing upon itself, only to explode again in another Big Bang. Others speak of the Big Bounce, endless cycles of expansion and contraction. Creation, destruction, rebirth. Does this not sound like the yugas written in stars? And even in biology, cycles rule. Species rise, flourish, vanish, and are replaced. Extinctions come like Ragnarök, sweeping away whole worlds of life, only for new forms to emerge. The Permian extinction, the fall of the dinosaurs. Are these not cosmic Kali Yugas, endings that make way for new dawns? Can you not see that even science in its cold precision cannot escape the rhythm of the wheel? Think also of time itself. Einstein showed us that time is not absolute but bends and curves entwined with space. Quantum physics hints that time may not flow in one direction, that past and future may blur. What if time is not a line at all? What if the ancients were right, and the true nature of time is cyclical? Do you feel a chill when you think that perhaps the sages knew something we are only beginning to rediscover? Now ask yourself, why are we so eager to imagine progress as a straight road? Perhaps it comforts us. If time is a line, then the future must be better, must be brighter. We tell ourselves that technology will save us, that tomorrow will outshine today. But what if this is only illusion? What if decline is inevitable, as the ancients said? Does that frighten you, or does it awaken you? This passage incites us to understand the way to live one's life is a continuation of the way the ancients said. Look at your own world. Climate change, wars, collapsing systems. Does it feel like progress? Or does it feel like a turning, a decline into darkness? But if the yugas teach us anything, it is this: decline is not the end. It is the womb of renewal. Even in collapse, seeds are planted for the next age. Can you trust that truth, even when everything around you trembles? Modern thinkers, blending science and myth, have tried to reconcile these visions. They speak of cycles of consciousness, of humanity awakening in waves. Some say that Kali Yuga is ending, that a new Satya Yuga is dawning. Others say we are still sinking deeper into shadow. Which is true? Perhaps both. Perhaps cycles exist on many levels at once: personal, cultural, cosmic. Which one are you living now? Think of your own life once more. Have you not experienced your own collapses, your own Ragnaröks, your own nights of despair when everything seemed lost? And yet, did not dawn always follow? If it happened in your life, Why would it not happen in the life of the universe itself? Science tells us that stars are born, burn, collapse, and scatter their ashes. From those ashes, new stars form, new worlds rise. You are made of those ashes, of atoms forged in dead stars. Do you realize what that means? You are already a child of cycles. Death gave you life. Destruction created you. How could you ever doubt the wheel when it is written in your very bones? So whether in myth or science, the story is the same. The ancients told it in fire and flood. The moderns tell it in stars and atoms. But the lesson does not change. Everything moves in cycles. Everything dies to be reborn. Everything turns upon the wheel. And you, yes, you, must decide what you will do with your place in that turning. Will you cling to the illusion of endless progress, or will you face the truth of decline? Will you despair at collapse, or will you carry the fire for the dawn to come? That is the challenge of Kali Yuga, of the Iron Age, of every age of darkness. That is the challenge of your time. So do not imagine that science has disproved the myths. In its deepest truths, it has only confirmed them. The universe breathes, worlds rise and fall, cycles are eternal, and as you live your brief life within them, you have one choice that matters: to be part of the decay or to be part of the renewal. Which will you choose? The ancients would tell you that the wheel will turn, no matter what. The golden age will come again. But whether it comes swiftly or after long suffering depends on us, on our choices, on our courage. Theosophists called it evolution of consciousness. Hindus called it dharma. Norsemen called it courage at the end of days. Scientists call it adaptation. But all mean the same thing. Survival is not enough. Renewal requires wisdom. So look around you. You live in an age of shadow, but within it lies the chance of light. Technology may enslave or liberate. Knowledge may corrupt or enlighten. Power may destroy or create. What matters is how you choose, how you live, what fire you tend. Will you let the sacred flame die, or will you carry it into the next dawn? Because cycles are eternal, the only question is, what kind of world will you leave behind for the next turning? So now you have walked through the ages. You have stood in India beside the sages who spoke of yugas, in Greece with Hesiod lamenting the Iron Age, in Persia before the sacred fire of Zoroaster, in the frozen north where gods marched to Ragnarök, in the jungles of the Maya, in the temples of Egypt, in the courts of China, and even among modern scientists tracing the heartbeat of the cosmos. Different tongues, different symbols, different myths, but always the same rhythm: light, decline, darkness, renewal. The wheel turns. The question is not if it turns, but how you will face it. Close your eyes for a moment and think of your own life. Have you not felt the wheel moving within you? Childhood, when the world was golden, innocent, a Satya Yuga of your own. Youth, when pride and passion crept in, a Treta Yuga, bright but already shadowed. Adulthood, a Dvapara, half light and half struggle, wisdom fighting ignorance. And then, perhaps, moments of Kali Yuga, when lies surrounded you, when despair whispered, when you wondered if all was lost. And yet, here you are. Did you not rise again? Did you not begin anew? Do you see now that the cycles of myth are also the cycles of your own heart? Think too of humanity's story. Once, long ago, small tribes gazed at the stars, told myths by firelight. They lived close to the earth, perhaps closer to innocence. Then came pride, empire, conquest, wars, cities, arrogance, decline. And today you live in an age of vast knowledge and vast ignorance, technology beyond dreams and wisdom often forgotten. Is this not Kali Yuga, the Iron Age? But if so, then remember, every Kali ends. Every iron yields to gold. Darkness is only ever a prelude to dawn. Do you believe that? Can you feel it? The ancients were not naive. They did not promise that light would come without struggle. They warned that destruction must precede rebirth. Ragnarök burns before green earth returns. The flood drowns before the ark lands. Kali rages before Satya returns. But always, always, the pattern holds. Always renewal comes. Now ask yourself, what role will you play in the turning? Will you let despair consume you, saying the world is doomed, nothing matters? Or will you choose differently, saying, if this is the dark age, then even my smallest light is precious? Because that is the hidden teaching of every myth, the lesson whispered by every culture. Your choices matter most when the world is darkest. Think of the Zoroastrian fire that never went out, carried across centuries by priests who believed that as long as the flame burned, truth remained. Think of Yggdrasil, trembling but unbroken, sheltering the two humans who would repopulate the world after Ragnarök. Think of the Mayan calendar, not ending but renewing, the fifth sun giving way to the sixth. Think of Osiris, torn apart but resurrected, his blood feeding the Nile's life. Think of Dharma in India, tottering on one leg, but still standing. Each is a symbol of the same truth. Something endures. Something survives. Something waits to bloom again. Will you be among those who preserve it? Do not say your life is too small. Remember, the wheel is vast, but every turn depends on countless small acts. Empires collapse, yes, but they collapse faster when corruption spreads unchecked. Renewal begins, yes, but it begins only when someone chooses to act with courage, with compassion, with truth. Are you willing to be that someone? Look at the world around you. You see lies, division, violence, greed. It is easy to despair, but look closer. You also see kindness, resistance, courage, love. Both exist, both matter. The Yuga cycle does not ask you to wait passively for Satya to return. It asks you to keep the fire alive so that when Satya comes, there is still light to greet it. And science, too, agrees. Stars collapse, yes, but in their ashes new stars ignite. Forests burn, yes, but in the charred ground new growth begins. You yourself are made of atoms from dead stars. Do you understand? You are already proof that destruction leads to creation. You are the living embodiment of the cycle. Why, then, would you doubt it? So as the wheel turns, pause and reflect. When future generations look back at this age, what will they see? Will they say, they let the flame die? Or will they say, even in the age of darkness, they carried truth? That choice lies with you. You cannot stop the wheel, but you can choose how you ride it. Will you sink into shadow, or will you be a flame for the dawn? Now returning your mind to the first question, is time a line or a circle? You have heard the answer whispered in 100 voices. The answer is both and neither. For to the human mind, time feels like a line, birth to death, past to future. But beneath that line lies the circle, the wheel turning endlessly. And perhaps beyond even that lies something greater still, something the sages hinted at but never fully spoke, that time itself is an illusion, and what is eternal is not the wheel, but the spirit watching it turn. Does that thought unsettle you, or does it free you? If time is illusion, then you are not bound by its chains. If the wheel is endless, then you are not lost when it turns. You are the witness, the traveler, the flame that endures through every cycle. So here, at the end of this journey, the myths come together. India, Greece, Persia, the Norse, the Maya, Egypt, China, modern science. All different, yet all pointing to the same truth. Existence is cyclical. Death is not the end. Collapse is not final. Renewal always follows. The wheel turns. And now the last question is not about the myths. It is about you. The wheel will turn whether you believe or not. The dawn will come whether you are ready or not. But when it does, where will you be standing? Will you be among those lost in the shadows, or among those who kept the flame alive? Will you curse the darkness, or will you light a candle? Because time is not only cosmic, it is personal. Your life, your choices, your courage, these are the seeds of the next age. You are part of the story, part of the cycle, part of the eternal turning. Do not forget that. Do not waste it. So I leave you with this. When the wheel turns again, and it will, What legacy will you leave upon it? What light will you carry into the dawn? The answer lies not in the stars, not in the myths, but in you. So now you have walked through the ages. You have stood in India beside the sages who spoke of yugas, in Greece with Hesiod lamenting the Iron Age, in Persia before the sacred fire of Zoroaster, in the frozen north where gods marched to Ragnarök, in the jungles of the Maya, in the temples of Egypt, in the courts of China, and even among modern scientists tracing the heartbeat of the cosmos. Different tongues, different symbols, different myths, but always the same rhythm: light, decline, darkness, renewal. The wheel turns. The question is not if it turns, but how you will face it. Close your eyes for a moment and think of your own life. Have you not felt the wheel moving within you? Childhood, when the world was golden, innocent, a Satya Yuga of your own. Youth, when pride and passion crept in, a Treta Yuga, bright but already shadowed. Adulthood, a Dvapara, half light and half struggle. Wisdom fighting ignorance. And then perhaps moments of Kali Yuga, when lies surrounded you, when despair whispered, when you wondered if all was lost. And yet, here you are. Did you not rise again? Did you not begin anew? Do you see now that the cycles of myth are also the cycles of your own heart? Think, too, of humanity's story. Once, long ago, small tribes gazed at the stars, told myths by firelight. They lived close to the earth, perhaps closer to innocence. Then came pride, empire, conquest, wars, cities, arrogance, decline. And today you live in an age of vast knowledge and vast ignorance, technology beyond dreams and wisdom often forgotten. Is this not Kali Yuga, the Iron Age? But if so, then remember, every Kali yen, every iron yields to gold. Darkness is only ever a prelude to dawn. Do you believe that? Can you feel it? The ancients were not naive. They did not promise that light would come without struggle. They warned that destruction must precede rebirth. Ragnarök burns before green earth returns. The flood drowns before the ark lands. Kali rages before Satya returns. But always, always, the pattern holds. Always, renewal comes. Now ask yourself, what role will you play in the turning? Will you let despair consume you, saying, the world is doomed, nothing matters? Or will you choose differently, saying, if this is the dark age, then even my smallest light is precious? Because that is the hidden teaching of every myth, the lesson whispered by every culture. Your choices matter most when the world is darkest. Think of the Zoroastrian fire that never went out, carried across centuries by priests who believed that as long as the flame burned, truth remained. Think of Yggdrasil, trembling but unbroken, sheltering the two humans who would repopulate the world after Ragnarök. Think of the Mayan calendar, not ending but renewing, the fifth sun giving way to the sixth. Think of Osiris, torn apart but resurrected, his blood feeding the Nile's life. Think of Dharma in India tottering on one leg but still standing. Each is a symbol of the same truth. Something endures, something survives, something waits to bloom again. Will you be among those who preserve it? Do not say your life is too small. Remember, the wheel is vast, but every turn depends on countless small acts. Empires collapse, yes, but they collapse faster when corruption spreads unchecked. Renewal begins, yes, but it begins only when someone chooses to act with courage, with compassion, with truth. Are you willing to be that someone? Look at the world around you. You see lies, division, violence, greed. It is easy to despair. But look closer. You also see kindness, resistance, courage, love. Both exist. Both matter. The Yuga cycle does not ask you to wait passively for Satya to return. It asks you to keep the fire alive so that when Satya comes, there is still light to greet it. And science too agrees. Stars collapse, yes, but in their ashes new stars ignite. Forests burn, yes, but in the charred ground new growth begins. You yourself are made of atoms from dead stars. Do you understand? You are already proof that destruction leads to creation. You are the living embodiment of the cycle. Why then would you doubt it? So, as the wheel turns, pause and reflect. When future generations look back at this age, what will they see? Will they say, they let the flame die? Or will they say, even in the age of darkness, they carried truth? That choice lies with you. You cannot stop the wheel, but you can choose how you ride it. Will you sink into shadow, or will you be a flame for the dawn? Now return in your mind to the first question. Is time a line or a circle? You have heard the answer whispered in 100 voices. The answer is both, and neither. For to the human mind, time feels like a line, birth to death, past to future. But beneath that line lies the circle, the wheel turning endlessly. And perhaps beyond even that lies something greater still, something the sages hinted at but never fully spoke, that time itself is an illusion, and what is eternal is not the wheel, but the spirit watching it turn. Does that thought unsettle you, or does it free you? If time is illusion, then you are not bound by its chains. If the wheel is endless, then you are not lost when it turns. You are the witness, the traveler, the flame that endures through every cycle. So here, at the end of this journey, the myths come together. India, Greece, Persia, the Norse, the Maya, Egypt, China, modern science, all different, yet all pointing to the same truth. Existence is cyclical. Death is not the end, collapse is not final, renewal always follows. The wheel turns. And now, the last question is not about the myths, it is about you. The wheel will turn, whether you believe or not. The dawn will come, whether you are ready or not. But when it does, where will you be standing? Will you be among those lost in the shadows, or among those who kept the flame alive? Will you curse the darkness, or will you light a candle? Because time is not only cosmic, it is personal. Your life, your choices, your courage, these are the seeds of the next age. You are part of the story, part of the cycle, part of the eternal turning. Do not forget that, do not waste it. So I leave you with this. When the wheel turns again, and it will, what legacy will you leave upon it? What light will you carry into the dawn? The answer lies not in the stars, not in the myths, but in you.